The courtroom lights burned white as she leaned back in her chair, smirking like justice belonged to her family name. The son of a police captain, 22, arrogant and fearless, tapped the table with 2 fingers as if calling the room to attention. "Money can buy justice," he whispered loud enough for the cameras. But the moment Judge Judy lifted her eyes, the air changed. And 30 minutes later, he would lose everything. The smirk hit the room before he did, a slow, lazy curl of the mouth that told everyone watching that he did not just expect to win, he expected the world to tilt for him. And the moment he stepped under the harsh studio lights, even the air seemed to step back from his confidence. He walked toward the defendant's podium like it was a stage built for him alone. 22 years old, pressed jacket, flawless fade, posture sharp enough to cut the silence. The cameras tracked him, and he made sure to glance at each one, just long enough to remind the audience that he knew exactly how he looked. The plaintiff, a young woman barely holding her stack of documents together, shrank a little at the sight of him. It was not his size that intimidated her. It was the swagger. The practiced ease of someone who grew up believing consequences were for other people. Her grip tightened on the folder, the paper edges bending under her fingertips. Judge Judy watched the entrance without shifting her expression. She had seen every shade of arrogance step through those doors. But this boy carried a different kind of shine, the kind that comes from being told your whole life that the world owes you something. The kind that grows in the shadow of a police captain's badge. He took his place, rolled his shoulders back, and exhaled like he owned the room. Then, loud enough for the microphone but soft enough to deny intent, he muttered, "This should be quick." It was not the words that made the audience stiffen. It was the tone, the casual dismissal, the confidence of someone who believed the woman across from him was an inconvenience, not a plaintiff. Judge Judy lifted her eyes slowly, deliberately. A stillness settled over the courtroom, the type that makes every camera focus tighter and every heartbeat sound louder. She studied him the way surgeons study a pulse before making the first incision. "What is your full name?" she asked. He recited it with a grin, as if introducing himself at a party. His voice carried that smooth, practiced charm certain young men master early, the kind designed to disarm, not respect. "And your relation to law enforcement?" Judy asked next. That was when the smile sharpened. "My father is captain." She held up a hand. Just one. But it cut through his sentence like a blade. "I did not ask who he is," she said. "I asked about your relation. Try again." The grin faltered for the first time, a hairline crack right at the edge of his confidence. The plaintiff noticed it. So did his mother, seated behind him, shifting ever so slightly as if the chair had grown uncomfortable. He cleared his throat. I meant that I'm familiar with how things work." Judy leaned in just an inch, enough to send a ripple through the entire room. "Then you should have no trouble answering very simple questions." His smirk tried to return, but the muscles around his mouth betrayed him. They tightened, twitched, a silent confession his confidence was not as solid as he wanted the room to believe. Judge Judy tapped her pen once, sharp as a gavel strike. "Let us begin," she said. And in that moment, the fire he thought he controlled began to burn him instead. The question still hung in the air when he inhaled sharply, too sharply. A small sound, almost nothing, but enough to shift the room's temperature. His smile resurfaced, but it no longer carried the easy confidence from moments earlier. It felt stretched now, painted on like a mask that did not quite fit. Judge Judy did not look away. Her gaze stayed fixed on him, steady and unblinking, the kind of look that made lies feel heavier. "Tell me," she said. "Why are we here today?" He opened his mouth with the certainty of someone who had rehearsed the answer in his mirror. "Your Honor, the plaintiff is exaggerating what happened. I was just trying to—" A paper rustled beside him, crisp and sharp. The plaintiff had begun sorting her documents again, the edges trembling slightly in her hands. She did not look at him. She could not. Instead, her eyes remained glued to the top sheet, the one she had read 1,000 times in fear and frustration. Judge Judy turned her attention toward her. "You seem nervous," she said, voice softened but still carrying authority. The plaintiff swallowed, nodded. "He told me not to make this a big deal," she whispered. "He said people like me don't win cases against people like him." A ripple went through the courtroom seating, a mix of murmurs, small breaths, shifting postures. The cameras adjusted, zooming in just a touch on the defendant's face. His jaw tightened. The smirk twitched. "That's not what I said," he snapped. "She's twisting it." But it was the defensiveness, that sudden spike in volume he could not control, that gave him away. Judge Judy tapped her glasses lightly, as if aligning her focus. "Let us stay factual," she said. "Plaintiff, start from the beginning." The plaintiff exhaled shakily and began recounting the timeline. The favor he offered, the money exchanged, the promise broken, and finally, the message that made her feel threatened. Her voice wavered only once, when she mentioned his father's rank. The defendant shifted his weight, shoulders rising defensively. "That has nothing to do with—" "Do not," Judy cut in. "Interrupt her, again." His mouth snapped shut. His eyes flicked toward the gallery where his mother sat, gripping the strap of her purse with white knuckles. She leaned slightly forward, whispering something he should not have heard. "Stop talking, just stop." He ignored her completely. "Your Honor, she is blowing this out of proportion. She's trying to get attention." Judy looked down at her bench, then up at him, her tone flat and surgical. Attention is not evidence, but arrogance is often a clue. The plaintiff's hands steadied as she reached into her folder. A single sheet slid forward, the first document she had been waiting to present. "This," she said softly, "is the date he told me he would pay me back. And this," she lifted her phone, "is the message he sent instead." The defendant's smirk vanished completely. Judge Judy extended her hand. "Let me see it." And as the plaintiff stepped forward, the room seemed to lean with her, toward the first undeniable crack in his story. The file landed in Judge Judy's hands with a soft thud, but the sound echoed like a warning through the courtroom. She did not open it right away. She let the silence stretch, let the defendant fidget, let the plaintiff steady her breath. The tension tightened like a pulled thread. Then Judy flipped the cover. A single eyebrow lifted. That was all it took for the defendant's shoulders to stiffen. His smirk tried to reappear, but it came back warped, a crooked shadow of itself. "What am I looking at?" Judy asked, not looking up. The plaintiff's voice quivered before it found its footing. "The messages he sent me, Your Honor, and the screenshots of the payments. I printed everything because I was afraid he would try to delete them." She was right to be afraid. Judy's eyes scanned the first page. A Venmo request, a timestamp. A note that contradicted nearly every word the defendant had said moments earlier. The judge turned the next page, slower this time, as if giving him space to speak, or to sink. "You told me," Judy said, lifting her gaze, "that you never agreed on any repayment date." The defendant shifted, cleared his throat. "That screenshot is out of context." Judy's eyes did not blink. "Then give me the context." He opened his mouth. Nothing came out. His mother's breath caught behind him, loud enough for the nearest camera to catch. She leaned forward, fingers brushing his elbow, a silent plea for him to stop digging. He gently shook her off. "Your Honor," he said, forcing confidence back into his tone, "anyone can fake a screenshot." The gallery stirred. Someone exhaled sharply. Even the plaintiff's eyes widened, not because of his claim, but because of how casually he said it. Judy tapped the page with her nail. "Then explain why this matches the bank record I have from the plaintiff." He froze. For the first time, truly froze. "Bank record?" he repeated, as if hoping he had misheard. "Yes," Judy answered, leaning back just slightly. "The plaintiff submitted it before the hearing began. It verifies the payment, the date, and the note attached to it." His throat bobbed. "Well, that must be a mistake, or she edited it." "You are accusing her," Judy said, "of forging a federally regulated banking statement?" The smirk disappeared, like a flame snuffed out by cold wind. The plaintiff stepped forward. "He told me to wait 3 weeks for repayment. I did. Then he stopped answering my messages. When I asked for the money again, he sent me—" Judy raised a hand, just slightly. "I see it." She turned one more page. Her expression changed. Not dramatically, just a narrowing of the eyes, a tightening at the corners. But it was enough. The whole room felt it. "This message," she said slowly, "mentions your father, in a way that sounds concerning." He swallowed hard. "That's not what I meant." Judy's voice dropped, soft but cutting. "Do you know what perjury means?" Every sound vanished. Even the cameras seemed to hold their breath. The defendant blinked, suddenly unsure, suddenly human. Judy slid the file closed with a deliberate, final motion. "Good," she said, "because we are about to find out how much of your story holds up under oath." And just like that, the file that should never have existed became the first nail in the coffin of his confidence. The echo of Judy's last sentence had not even faded when he straightened his back, panic sharpening into defiance. He tried to rebuild the smirk, piece by piece, the way someone tries to rebuild a shattered mirror with trembling hands. But confidence, once cracked, reflects the truth in every broken angle. "Your Honor," he said, louder than necessary, "I think the plaintiff is trying to make this sound worse than it is. She keeps acting like I threatened her. I did not threaten anyone." Judge Judy folded her hands. "You mentioned your father in a message, correct?" He hesitated. A 1-second pause, long enough for the cameras to catch. Long enough for the plaintiff's breath to hitch. I only said that to reassure her things would get resolved," he answered. "My father knows how these situations go. He is experienced. People trust him." Judy leaned in, elbows on the bench. "No, what you said, according to this file, reads as intimidation, not reassurance." His jaw clenched. "That is your interpretation." "No," Judy corrected softly. "That is your wording." His mother shifted again in the gallery, her purse now clutched against her chest like a shield. "Stop," she whispered. "Please, stop talking." But he would not. Arrogance rarely retreats quietly. The plaintiff took a small breath, then spoke, voice trembling just enough to reveal the cost of speaking at all. "When he sent that message, I was terrified. He said his father handles things and that I should be careful pushing my luck. I didn't sleep for 2 days. I thought I'd be reported or fired. The courtroom fell so still it felt like the air itself was waiting." Judy turned her attention fully to the plaintiff, softening just slightly. "You believed there would be consequences if you pursued repayment?" "Yes," the plaintiff said. That was the point of his message. The defendant scoffed. She's overreacting. She always does. That is her pattern. Judy's gaze snapped back to him, sharp and unblinking. Do not, she said, insult the person bringing evidence against you. It only makes you look smaller. His face reddened, not from shame, but from losing control of the narrative. You're not listening to me, he protested. I am, Judy replied. You are simply not saying anything helpful. He opened his mouth again, but this time nothing coherent formed. His confidence cracked wider, exposing panic beneath. The plaintiff stepped forward hesitantly. There's more, she said. Something I didn't include in the initial paperwork. Judy turned her head slightly, eyebrow raised. What is it? The plaintiff reached into her folder and pulled out her phone. My coworker recorded a voicemail he left. I didn't want to play it unless I absolutely had to. The defendant's hand shot out instinctively, palm open, as if he could physically stop the words from leaving the device. Do not play that, he snapped. It's private. Judy's voice cut through him, steady as steel. Anything relevant to the case is not private. His chest rose and fell too fast. His mother's fingers tightened around her purse strap until her knuckles blanched. The plaintiff's thumb hovered over the play button. Your Honor, she said quietly. This is what he sounds like when he thinks no one can stop him. And as the room braced, the last fragments of his control slipped through his shaking fingers. The plaintiff tapped the screen. A single beep filled the courtroom. Sharp, sterile, final. Then his voice spilled out of the speaker. Not the calm, polished tone he used in front of the cameras. Not the measured confidence he wrapped himself in like armor. This voice was raw, reckless, unfiltered, the real him. Listen, the recording began, slurred with arrogance. I don't know why you keep bothering me about the money. You're not going to win anything. My dad cleans everything. That's how this works. People like me don't lose. A gasp rippled through the gallery, small but unmistakable. Even the bailiff's posture shifted, chin rising as if bracing for impact. The defendant's face drained of color. His hand twitched toward the phone again, but he stopped midway, fingers curling uselessly against his palm. His mother covered her mouth, eyes widening with a kind of fear only someone who knows the truth recognizes. The recording continued. So chill, his voice said smugly. You can file whatever you want. Nothing sticks to me. The voicemail ended with a soft click, a sound that landed heavier than any gavel strike. Judge Judy exhaled slowly, as if letting the room absorb the weight before she spoke. Is that your voice? She asked. He swallowed. Someone must have. Yes or no? She said, tone steady, emotionless. His eyes darted toward his mother. She shook her head ever so slightly, not in denial, but in surrender. He faced forward again. Yes, he whispered. And did you say, Judy continued, flipping the phone display toward herself, my dad cleans everything? He shut his eyes, breathing hard. I was exaggerating. It was a joke. A joke, Judy repeated, letting the word fall flat between them. Tell me, do you often joke about being above the law? That's not what I meant, he said, voice cracking on the last word. The plaintiff stepped forward, barely above a whisper. When I heard that message, I couldn't breathe. I thought I'd be dragged into something I couldn't escape. His head snapped toward her. You're acting like I threatened you. You did, Judy said sharply, her voice slicing through the room. Intimidation is not always a threat of violence. Sometimes it is leveraging perceived power to instill fear. He sank back against the podium, shoulders collapsing inward. The swagger evaporated completely. replaced by something hollow, something unfamiliar to him. "You misrepresented your father's authority," Judy said. "You used his title as a shield you did not earn. And worse, you weaponized it against someone who simply wanted to be repaid." He shook his head furiously. "You're twisting this!" "No," Judy replied. "I am clarifying it." She turned to the plaintiff. "Do you have anything else regarding the defendant's use of his father's position?" The plaintiff nodded. "One more thing. In the original messages, he used his father's badge number." She lifted a printed screenshot. "This one." Judy took it, eyes scanning the page. Her expression cooled another degree. The defendant let out a shaky breath, a sound halfway between panic and resignation. "Why?" Judy asked him quietly, almost gently. "Why go this far?" His lips parted, but no words came, only a strangled breath, as if he had finally realized the game he played was not one he could win. The judge tapped the screenshot once, deliberate and calm. "Because now," she said, "we are going to uncover exactly how deep this goes." And in that still moment, the courtroom understood. The voicemail was not just evidence. It was the beginning of his unraveling. The last echo of Judge Judy's words still pulsed in the air when he snapped upright, dragging what remained of his bravado back onto his face like a torn jacket. His voice came out too fast, too sharp, the sound of someone trying to outrun the truth. "This is getting blown out of proportion," he said. "She's acting like I'm some kind of criminal for being confident. People joke. People say things. It doesn't mean anything." But the tremor in his voice betrayed him. Confidence did not shake like that. Fear did. The plaintiff did not respond. She only clutched the edges of her folder, knuckles pale, breath steadying as if the air had finally begun to return to her lungs. Judge Judy leaned back slightly, studying him the way one studies a fire that has begun to burn out of its control zone. "You are not in trouble for confidence," she said. "You are in trouble for deception. There is a difference, and it is crucial." He scoffed, a brittle, cracking sound. "You're just taking her side because she's pretending to be scared. She wants sympathy." The room tightened. Even the gallery felt the weight of that sentence, the kind of accusation arrogance uses when cornered. Judy's voice did not rise. It did not need to. "When someone claims fear," she said, "you do not get to decide whether it is real. Your behavior decides that." He rolled his eyes, an act so blatant it sent a ripple of disapproval through the audience. "My behavior?" he said. "I paid her what I could. She's mad because she didn't get it fast enough." "Which," Judy replied, "would be interesting, if you actually had paid her anything." His mouth opened, then closed, the sound of a lie suffocating before it could breathe. The plaintiff stepped forward slowly, unsure but resolute. "Your Honor, may I show the last thing?" Judy nodded. "Go ahead." The plaintiff pulled out a folded paper, old, creased, handled too often. She hesitated, her breath hitching just slightly. "When he used his father's badge number," she whispered, "I thought, maybe reporting him was dangerous. I stopped going to work for 2 days. I didn't tell my family. I was afraid I'd get someone in trouble who could make my life worse." For a moment, the room went still. Not courtroom silence, but human silence. The defendant let out a frustrated exhale. "She's making it sound dramatic. I didn't threaten her. I didn't do any of that. She's exaggerating everything." Judy's eyes lowered to the desk, then lifted slowly, deliberate, precise. "You do not understand," she said. "Your words carry weight because you chose to tie them to authority. Whether or not you meant real harm does not change the impact." He shook his head, anger rising in jagged bursts. "I'm done listening to lies." "No," Judy answered softly. You are done telling them. His mother flinched in the gallery. The plaintiff took a breath and placed the folded document on Judy's bench. This is the last thing, she said. The part I didn't want to show. The defendant's eyebrows shot up, surprise, fear, something darker flickering through them. What is that? He demanded. The plaintiff didn't look at him. She looked at the bench. It's the message he sent the morning after the voicemail. It's worse. Judge Judy unfolded the paper slowly, the crisp sound slicing through the air like a blade. Her eyes narrowed. Her voice dropped. We will address this next. And just like that, the pressure he thought he could outrun closed in. Sharp, heavy, and inescapable. The paper barely settled on Judge Judy's bench before the plaintiff reached into her folder again, this time with a steadier hand. A thin photograph slid free, its glossy edge catching the courtroom light like a blade. The defendant's reaction was instant. Not delayed, not masked. Instant. His spine stiffened, his eyes widened, his face drained in a single heartbeat. Whatever this photo was, it had ripped straight through the armor he'd been welding together since the hearing began. Judge Judy lifted it gently, her expression unreadable. What am I looking at? She asked. The plaintiff's voice trembled, but with purpose this time, not fear. That was taken the day he said he never saw me. He said he was out of town. He said he had an alibi. But that, she pointed to the image, is him standing with me, at the exact location he denies ever being. The camera zoomed in reflexively, catching the faint shift in his jaw, the tightening that happens when a lie tries to claw its way back to safety. You said, Judy said slowly, you were 3 cities away on that date. I was, he insisted immediately. That picture is old. She's trying to trick you. The plaintiff shook her head. No. The original photo has metadata. It's printed on the back. The time, the geotag, everything. Metadata, Judy repeated, turning the photograph over. The defendant's breath hitched. His mother whispered something desperate behind him, unheard by anyone but him. Judy read aloud, voice precise. Captured on March 3rd, local coordinates. She held the photo up. You were here. No, he shot back, desperation scraping the edges of his voice. I wasn't. She must have edited. It is a printed photograph, Judy cut in sharply. Not a digital file, not a screenshot, not a manipulated image. He opened his mouth, closed it again, a wordless panic settling in. In the picture, the two of them stood outside a small cafe. He wasn't glancing at cameras or posing with his perfected smirk. He was relaxed, laughing. Nothing about him looked pressured or unwilling, the very opposite of the story he'd been clinging to. The plaintiff swallowed. He told me meeting that day never happened. He said I must have confused him with someone else. The defendant exploded. That's because you did confuse. Judy slammed her palm onto the bench, the sound cracking through the room like thunder. Stop! Silence fell instantly. Her voice lowered but intensified, every syllable cutting cleanly. You have contradicted yourself repeatedly. You denied payment agreements I have documents for. You denied messages that match bank records. And now you deny a photograph with time-stamped metadata. He stared down at the podium, breathing unevenly. The audience watched, entranced, the crumble no longer subtle. Judy extended the photograph back toward the plaintiff. Is there anything else from that day? The plaintiff hesitated, then nodded. Yes, she said quietly. There's one more thing I brought. The screenshot of the conversation we had right after this photo. I wasn't sure if it mattered. The defendant looked up fast. too fast. His expression flickered between fear and fury, a seamless loop of unraveling composure. Judy leaned forward, voice steady. "Show me." The plaintiff pulled out a second page, face pale but resolved, and as the paper hovered between her fingers and the judge's, the defendant whispered, almost involuntarily, "Oh God, not that one." It was too late. The final blow from that day was coming, and he knew it before anyone else did. The screenshot trembled slightly between the plaintiff's fingers as she handed it to the clerk. But her voice, when she finally spoke, did not tremble at all. "This is the conversation he had with me right after the photo," she said. "The one he swore never happened." Judge Judy took the page, unfolding it like something fragile yet dangerous. The courtroom leaned in as if gravity had shifted toward the bench. The defendant's breathing grew loud in the microphone. A nervous rhythm, uneven, uncontrolled. "Your Honor," he began. But Judy raised a single finger, and the rest of his words died in his throat. She read the screenshot silently at first, then again, then a third time, each pass deeper, calmer, colder. Finally, she read the lines aloud. "Thanks again for covering for me today. Dad can't know. You know how he is about me borrowing money." A murmur rolled through the room. The defendant snapped upright. "That's not what it means. That's not—" Judy continued. "If anyone asks, we never met. Just say you were mistaken." His hands clenched the podium until his knuckles turned bloodless. That's taken out of context." Judy's gaze lifted, sharp and unwavering. "Tell me," she said, "what context makes this innocent?" He opened his mouth, but panic erased the sentence before it formed. The plaintiff stepped forward, voice low but steady. "He sent that after the photo was taken. He didn't want his father to know he borrowed anything. He told me if I mentioned it, he'd make sure I regretted it." "That's a lie!" he shouted. "I never threatened her. I never—" His mother reached out from the gallery, whispering frantically, "Please stop, honey. Just stop talking." But he didn't hear her, or couldn't, or refused to, because arrogance is loudest when the truth threatens to silence it. Judge Judy turned the screenshot so the camera could catch it. "This message uses your father's name. Again." "I didn't mean— and this line," she read, "Dad will straighten things out. Don't make this messy." "Do you deny sending this?" His mouth twitched. He tried to speak, but honesty was not a language he had ever learned fluently. I meant he'd help me explain things," he finally said. "I didn't mean—" "You said earlier," Judy cut in, "that your father knew nothing about any of this." He froze. The room waited. A bead of sweat slid down his temple. His mother covered her eyes. I misspoke," he whispered. "No," Judy said. "You lied." He inhaled sharply, chest rising too fast. "That's not fair," he muttered. "You're twisting everything I'm saying." Judy lowered the paper, her voice quiet, the kind of quiet that always precedes the most devastating truths. "Your father's involvement, your intimidation tactics, your fabricated alibi, every piece of this contradicts your story. And now, based on this message—" She paused. Let it hang. Let him squirm. "You are admitting coordination with your father, is that correct?" He panicked. "No." "That's not what I said!" His voice cracked, the first real fracture. But it was too late, because in his scramble to deny, defend, and deflect, he said one sentence too many, one sentence he never meant to give. "He doesn't even know I used his name." A hush fell so deep, it felt like the room stopped breathing. Judy leaned back, eyes narrowing. "So," she said softly, "you forged his involvement." The defendant's lips parted, but no sound followed. The gallery erupted in whispers. His mother sank deeper in her seat, and the courtroom understood. He had just confessed to the one thing he'd spent the entire case trying to hide. The words hung in the air like smoke. Thick, undeniable, impossible to push back into his mouth. He doesn't even know I used his name. His accidental confession still echoed when silence swept the courtroom. A silence so heavy it felt physical. Even the bailiff shifted, not out of duty, but in the way someone shifts when witnessing a moment they know will change everything that comes after it. Judge Judy did not speak right away. She simply stared at him, not with anger, not even with disappointment, with clarity, the kind that strips a person of every illusion they've built around themselves. "Repeat that," she finally said. He froze like a cornered animal. His jaw clenched, his eyes darted toward the cameras, then the plaintiff, then his mother, as if searching for a version of reality he could still control. I misspoke," he stammered. "You twisted what I said. That's not—" "Repeat it," Judy said again, this time softer, which somehow made it sharper. His composure buckled. He swallowed, breath ragged. "I didn't mean he didn't know. I meant he didn't know the details." Judy slid the screenshot aside with a calm so precise it landed like a judgment of its own. "Your mother," she said, turning her gaze just slightly. "Please stand." The gallery gasped. His mother jolted upright, her purse slipping from her lap and thudding onto the floor. Her eyes glistened with a fear that wasn't new. It was old, worn, lived in. "Ma'am," Judy continued, "did your husband approve your son using his name, his badge number, or his authority in these communications?" The mother's throat bobbed. She looked at her son, then at the plaintiff, then back to the judge. Every second of silence dragged like a stone across tile. Finally, she whispered, "No." He didn't. Her son's head snapped toward her, face contorting with disbelief. "Mom, what are you doing?" he hissed. "Don't say anything. You're not helping." But she couldn't stop. Her voice cracked as she continued. "He doesn't know. My husband never knew about any of this." The defendant's panic surged outward, wild and desperate. "This is ridiculous. You're throwing me under the bus because you don't understand how this works." Judy's hand lifted, one quiet gesture, and he fell silent. "Young man," she said, "what you don't understand is that lies only help the liar. Everyone else drowns under them." His breathing turned shallow, uneven. The smirk was long gone, replaced by something small, something frantic, something real. The plaintiff spoke next, softly. "Your voicemail, your messages, everything made me think the police would come after me, because you wanted me to believe that." He shook his head, but his eyes wouldn't meet hers. "I didn't. You're making this bigger than—" "No," Judy said firmly. "Your own words made it bigger." His mother slowly lowered herself back into her seat, covering her face. He looked at her like she had betrayed him, when in truth, she had finally stopped protecting him. Judge Judy leaned forward, voice dropping into a near whisper that carried farther than any shout. "For the first time today, you told the truth. By accident. Your arrogance outpaced your lies." He felt the world shift under him, the tilt unmistakable. The courtroom no longer revolved around him. It closed in on him. And as Judy prepared her next question, the one that would dig deeper than any before, his fingers curled around the podium like someone holding on to the edge of a cliff. Because he knew, everyone knew, the fall had finally begun. The defendant's fingers still clenched the podium when his mother stood again, not at Judge Judy's instruction this time, but because something inside her had finally given way. A fracture. A surrender. A truth she could no longer hold back. Her purse lay forgotten at her feet. Her hands shook as she clasped them in front of her, knuckles white, shoulders trembling under the weight of a truth she'd been carrying far longer than anyone realized. Judge Judy regarded her with a steady gaze. "Ma'am," she said, voice firm but not unkind, "I need you to answer truthfully. Did you know your son was using his father's badge number to intimidate people?" The mother closed her eyes. A single tear slipped free. Not a dramatic gesture, but the quiet kind that comes when a dam has been weakening for years. "Yes," she whispered. A gasp erupted from the gallery. The plaintiff's breath caught. The defendant spun toward his mother so sharply the microphone caught the hiss of air. "Mom!" His voice cracked with disbelief and betrayal. "What are you doing? Why would you say that? You know that's not—" She lifted a trembling hand. "Enough." The word was soft, but it carried the weight of years, of arguments, of excuses, of looking the other way. "You weren't supposed to admit that," he snapped. "You're making it worse. Just let me talk. I can fix this." Judge Judy cut in, her tone slicing through the chaos. "You cannot fix a sinking ship by drilling more holes in the bottom." His mother exhaled shakily, eyes red. "I tried," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "I tried to guide him. I told him not to lie, not to drag his father into things, but he doesn't listen. He hasn't listened in years." The defendant's face twisted with indignation. Wow. So now you're blaming me for everything? You're acting like I'm some kind of—" "Stop," she interrupted, her voice cracking. "Please, just stop." The courtroom fell silent again. The mother pressed a trembling hand against her forehead. "When he told me he used the badge number, I begged him to delete the messages. I said he needed to apologize and fix it before someone got hurt. But he told me—" She faltered, breath hitching. "He told me he didn't have to. That nobody could touch him." The defendant's eyes went wide, panic bubbling to the surface. "That is not what I said. You're twisting it just like she is." He jabbed a finger toward the plaintiff. "This whole thing is just— Sit down." Judge Judy didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. He froze, then sank reluctantly into his seat, face burning red with anger and humiliation. Judy turned back to the mother. "Why didn't you come forward earlier?" The mother swallowed hard. Because I was afraid of him." Her voice shook. "Of his temper. Of what he becomes when he's cornered. I thought if I protected him long enough, he'd grow out of it. But instead—" She looked at him, really looked, and her voice broke entirely. "I made it worse." The defendant stared at her, stunned. Not angry now, not defensive. Just stunned, as if the ground he stood on had collapsed beneath him. Judge Judy leaned forward, voice softer but heavier. "Ma'am, the truth you just spoke may be the first honest thing said on his behalf today." The mother lowered her head, tears slipping freely now. And as the courtroom absorbed her confession, the defendant sat motionless. Not out of defiance, but because he had finally realized something far more terrifying than losing the case. His mother was done protecting him. The mother's words still trembled in the air when the defendant finally lifted his head. His eyes were red, not from tears, but from disbelief, as if he genuinely could not understand how the world had shifted so violently beneath him. Judge Judy let the silence linger. Not as punishment, but as truth settling into the room, heavy, unignorable, final. "Ma'am," she said gently, "you may sit." The mother lowered herself into her seat with the slow, exhausted motion of someone who had finally stopped fighting a battle they were never meant to win. Her hands shook in her lap. She didn't look at her son. Couldn't. The defendant opened his mouth to speak, but no sound came. His throat moved in small, strained attempts, like he was trying to swallow words he wasn't ready to say. Judge Judy turned her full attention back to him. "Young man," she began, "your mother just told this courtroom she was afraid of your temper. She said she's been shielding you for years. Is she lying?" His head jerked back as if struck. "No," he blurted. She's confused. She's stressed. You're all stressing her out. This is—" "Stop," Judy said. He did. Her voice softened, which somehow made it hurt more. "You don't seem confused," she continued. "You seem frightened." He blinked rapidly. "I'm not scared." "Then look at me," Judy said. He couldn't. His gaze fell to the podium, to his hands, to anywhere but the judge dissecting him with calm precision. "For the first time today," Judy said quietly, "your bravado has disappeared. That tells me we're finally getting close to the truth." The plaintiff watched him carefully, not with anger now, but with something like sorrow. Not pity, recognition. She was seeing the real person beneath the performance. The defendant exhaled sharply, rubbing his forehead. This isn't how it's supposed to go." "Supposed to go?" Judy repeated. "Explain that." He hesitated. Too long. Then, "People don't talk to me this way," he muttered. "My father, people respect him. They know who I am. This—" His voice cracked, the word catching like a splinter. "This isn't how things work for me." His mother covered her mouth, stifling a sob. The plaintiff's eyes softened, shoulders sinking. The fear she once felt shifted into something quieter, heavier. She was seeing a young man unmasked, stripped of the stories he'd built around himself. Judy's tone remained steady. "Did your father ever tell you that you were above consequences?" "No," he whispered. "Did he ever tell you people should treat you differently because of his rank?" "No." "Then why?" Judy asked, leaning forward just slightly. "Did you believe that?" His breath shook, not from anger, not from arrogance, but from something much older, much deeper. He finally looked up. Just briefly. Just long enough to reveal something raw behind his eyes. "I don't know," he said. A whisper, a confession in its own right. The courtroom fell silent, not with shock, but with understanding. For the first time, his voice wasn't loud, wasn't rehearsed, wasn't armored. It was honest. Judge Judy folded her hands, studying him with a clarity that reached deeper than the case itself. "You believed you were untouchable," she said softly, "because it was easier than believing you were ordinary." He swallowed hard. His mother wept quietly behind him. "And now," Judy continued, her tone shifting, deeper, heavier, "we need to address why you built your life on a lie that was never given to you." He looked at her, eyes wide, breath unsteady. Because he knew, everyone knew, the next question would reveal a truth even he wasn't ready to face. And that truth would change everything that came before it. The question lingered in the air, unspoken but already shaping the room around him. Why did he build his life on a lie? His breath came shallow now, each inhale shaky, each exhale thin. The swagger that once clung to him like a second skin had peeled away entirely, leaving only a frightened young man gripping a podium as though it were the last solid thing in his world. Judge Judy let the quiet stretch, letting him live in it, not to punish him, but to let him finally hear himself. "Mr. Carson," she said softly, "look at me." He did, slow, reluctant, eyes rimmed red but holding a flicker of something unfamiliar, humility, or the very beginning of it. "You lied about your father's involvement," she continued. "You lied about where you were. You lied about repayment. Each lie built a wall, and now you're standing behind that wall alone." His lips parted. "Yes," he whispered, the smallest word, but more honest than anything he'd said all day. The plaintiff shifted, her expression no longer defensive. She watched him the way you watch someone who has finally stopped fighting their own shadow. Judy turned to her. "What impact did his behavior have on you?" The plaintiff swallowed. "It made me feel powerless," she said quietly. "Like no matter what proof I had, I would lose. Because he told me I would. Because he said I didn't matter." The defendant's head dropped. Not in defiance, in recognition. "And hearing him now?" Judy asked gently. The plaintiff's voice softened. "He sounds like someone who finally realizes what he did." The defendant winced, not from accusation, but from the truth of it. Judy shifted her gaze back to him. "Do you understand the fear you caused?" He nodded barely. "I thought, if people believed I had power, they'd take me seriously." He swallowed, breath trembling. "But all I did was scare and hurt people who didn't deserve it." His mother sobbed quietly behind him. He didn't turn around. He didn't reach out. He stayed very still, the most still he had been since the hearing began. Judy's voice dropped into a lower register, stern but not unkind. "Real authority is earned. Borrowed power, stolen power, imagined power. All of it collapses the moment it's tested." He exhaled shakily. "I know." "Do you?" she asked. He hesitated, then gave the most honest answer he had. "I do now." The words cracked as they left him, not from weakness, but from the strain of finally telling the truth. Judy studied him for a long moment, then leaned back, her tone shifting from interrogation to reckoning. "Young man," she said, "your arrogance didn't make you powerful. It made you fragile. And fragility masquerading as strength is dangerous, not just to others, but to yourself." He blinked hard, jaw trembling. The plaintiff wiped a tear discreetly. The mother clutched her purse as though holding herself together. Judy tapped her pen once, a soft, grounding sound. "We're approaching the end of this," she said, "but before I deliver judgment, I need to know something." His head rose slowly. "Do you understand?" Judy asked. "That accountability is not punishment. It is the first step toward becoming someone better?" The defendant swallowed, voice barely audible. "Yes," he whispered. The first real piece of acceptance. The ego didn't just crack. It collapsed, quietly, painfully, completely. And in the wreckage, there was finally room for truth. The courtroom felt different now. Not lighter. The air was still thick with everything that had been said, but steadier, as though the storm had passed its violent peak and left only the weight of truth behind. Judge Judy folded her hands. "Ms. Hart," she said to the plaintiff, "you've shown remarkable restraint throughout this hearing. Now I need to know, what do you believe justice looks like here?" The plaintiff hesitated, not because she didn't have an answer, but because she had too many. She looked at the defendant, not with anger, not with bitterness, with exhaustion, the kind that comes from carrying a fear you didn't ask for. "When he first threatened me," she began, voice soft, "I wanted to ruin him. I wanted him to feel what I felt, to be scared, to feel cornered." The defendant's eyes flickered, not in defense, but in shame. The plaintiff took a breath, grounding herself. "But now, I don't want revenge. I want accountability. I want my money back. And I want acknowledgement that what he did was wrong, because I shouldn't have been afraid to defend myself." Judy nodded slowly, absorbing each word. She turned to the defendant, her gaze piercing but steady. "You heard her," she said. "She isn't asking for your humiliation, only your honesty. Can you give her that?" He swallowed hard. For a long moment, he said nothing. His jaw tightened, loosened, tightened again, as if wrestling with every instinct that once told him never to admit fault. Finally, voice raw, he said, "I hurt you. I know that now, and I'm sorry. Not because I got caught, but because I made you feel powerless. You didn't deserve that." The plaintiff's lips parted slightly. She hadn't expected sincerity. She wasn't sure she even trusted it. But she heard it. And so did the courtroom. Judy leaned forward, quiet but firm. "Apologies are words. Accountability is action. So here is what justice demands." The defendant straightened, bracing himself. "First," she said, "you will repay the plaintiff the full amount owed, plus additional damages for emotional distress caused by your intimidation and deceit." He nodded, eyes glistening. "Yes, Your Honor." "Second," Judy continued, "you will provide a written apology, not a performative one, not a rehearsed one, a genuine, thoughtful reflection on the harm you caused." He swallowed again. "I can do that." "Third," Judy said, voice sharpening just enough, "you will stop using your father's name, in any context, as leverage or threat, because it is clear now that the power you pretended to have was nothing but a shield for your insecurity." His face reddened with embarrassment, but he didn't argue. "I understand." "And finally," Judy added, tone softening, "you will seek help, counseling, mentorship, something, to learn the difference between confidence and cruelty." He nodded again, more slowly this time. I will." The plaintiff watched him, trying to reconcile the boy who frightened her with the one standing before her now, exposed, humbled, altered. Judy let the silence settle just long enough for everyone to feel its weight. "Justice," she said, "is not about crushing someone. It is about restoring balance. You tipped that balance. Now you will help set it right." The defendant lowered his head. The plaintiff exhaled. And the courtroom, for the first time in the entire hearing, felt still, as though justice was no longer approaching, but finally beginning to arrive. The courtroom no longer hummed with tension. It breathed, slow, heavy, and reflective, like everyone inside had finally stopped bracing for the next explosion. Only one more truth needed to fall into place. Judge Judy closed the file gently, the soft click of the cover echoing like the final note of a long, hard lesson. Her gaze drifted from the defendant to the plaintiff, then finally to the mother, whose shoulders were hunched forward, hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had turned a dull, aching white. "Mrs. Carson," Judy said softly, "I want to hear from you. Not about your son. About you." The mother flinched as though the words had struck her directly. She lifted her head slowly, eyes red-rimmed, face drawn with years of strain she no longer had the energy to hide. What do you want to know?" she whispered. Judy folded her hands. "When you realized your son was lying," she began, "that he was using authority he didn't have, intimidating someone who did nothing to him, what did that feel like?" The mother swallowed. A hard, painful motion, and her reply quivered out. "Like watching someone drown," she said, "and every time I tried to pull him out, he dragged me under with him." The defendant's eyes widened. "Mom." But she wasn't looking at him anymore. She was staring down at her own intertwined fingers, the ones that had once held him as a baby, the ones that had shielded him from truths he needed to face. "I thought protecting him was love," she continued, voice cracking. "I thought defending him would save him from mistakes. But all I did was teach him that there were no consequences, and he built himself into someone I don't always recognize." A single tear slipped down her cheek. She didn't wipe it away. The plaintiff stared at her, expression softening. Empathy, quiet and tentative, flickered across her face. Not forgiveness, not yet, but understanding. Judge Judy nodded slowly. "Love is not immunity," she said. "Love is accountability. You cannot be someone's shield and their compass at the same time." The mother let out a shuddering breath, like a truth she had been holding for years had finally escaped. The defendant looked at her, really looked, and something inside him broke again, gentler this time. "Mom, I'm sorry." His voice wavered, not performative, not defensive, human. She met his eyes, and for a moment the arrogance that once defined him dissolved into something vulnerable, almost childlike. "I know you are," she whispered, "but you still have to change." Silence settled again, not cold, not harsh, reflective, healing. Judge Judy straightened, her tone carrying a kind of weary wisdom. "Everyone in this room has learned something today," she said. "Some lessons are loud, others are written in silence." The plaintiff wiped the corner of her eye. The mother drew a long, steadying breath. The defendant bowed his head, letting the last fragments of his bravado fall quietly to the floor. And as Judy reached for the file once more, the one that held every lie, every fear, every unraveling moment, the entire courtroom knew what was coming next, the verdict. But the final words had not yet been spoken. That silence? It was the space justice needs before it arrives. Before the verdict lands, think about this. Do people truly change, or do they simply learn to stop hiding the parts of themselves others can finally see? The courtroom was still. Not silent, still. Like every breath, every rustle, every shifting emotion had settled into a single shared heartbeat, waiting for the words that would define the end of this long, unraveling truth. Judge Judy lifted the file, heavy not with paper, but with everything those pages represented: fear, arrogance, deception, and finally, accountability. She let the cover fall open one last time, scanning the notes she already knew by heart. Then she closed it for good. "Mr. Carson," she began, voice steady, grounded, unshakable. "Stand." He rose slowly. No swagger, no smirk, only a young man who had finally run out of places to hide from himself. The plaintiff straightened beside him, clutching her folder. Not out of fear this time, but closure. "Over the course of this hearing," Judy said, "I've watched you lie, posture, deflect, and manipulate. But I have also watched something else, your facade collapse, and buried beneath it was someone who may finally be capable of honesty." He blinked hard, absorbing the words like they were both punishment and mercy. "But honesty," Judy continued, "is not a remedy, it is a beginning, and beginnings require accountability." She lifted her pen. "Here is my ruling." The courtroom breathed in. "First," she said, "you will repay the plaintiff the full amount owed, plus punitive costs resulting from your intimidation and misuse of perceived authority." "Yes, Your Honor," he whispered. "Second," Judy continued, "you will provide a written apology, not a statement crafted for optics, not a performance for the cameras, an apology that demonstrates understanding, responsibility, and a willingness to change." He nodded again, jaw tightening, emotion trembling behind his eyes. "Third," she said, her tone like polished steel, "you are forbidden from using your father's name, badge number, or position to advance yourself or threaten others. Such behavior is a profound breach of trust and will not be tolerated." His mother let out a soft, broken sob. Not sorrow, not shame, but release. "And lastly," Judy said, leaning forward slightly. You will seek guidance, professional counseling, community service, mentorship, something that teaches you the value of humility and the damage of unchecked ego. His voice cracked. I understand. She didn't smile, but something softened in her gaze. Ms. Hart, she turned to the plaintiff. You showed patience, courage, and restraint. You believed your voice didn't stand a chance against perceived power. Today, you proved otherwise. The plaintiff's eyes glistened, not with fear, but with relief she had never expected to feel in this room. Judge Judy sat back. This courtroom, she said, does not exist to destroy people. It exists to reveal them. And today, the truth spoke louder than the arrogance that tried to drown it. She lifted her gavel, not dramatically, not theatrically, but with the calm finality of justice that does not need to shout. Judgment for the plaintiff, the gavel struck. A single sharp sound, clean, final. The defendant exhaled, a breath that sounded like surrender, or maybe the first quiet step toward becoming someone different. His mother reached for his hand. For the first time, he didn't pull away. The plaintiff closed her eyes. A weight lifted. And as the cameras faded, as the murmurs began to rise, as the courtroom slowly dissolved back into the world outside, one truth lingered, soft, steady, unmistakable. Arrogance collapses. But truth? Truth stands.